Welcome to the After Work Hangout, the podcast where you'll hear why and how everyday people shifted their careers to meet their personal needs. I'm your host, Crystal Lee. As a career coach of over 10 years, I love to engage in real talk about work and life. In Season 1, we'll chat honestly about work and money. You might be surprised by the underlying factors that have led to different career and financial decisions. So listen, get inspired, and make the moves that are right for you. Hey Miranda, I'm so excited you're here for the After Work Hangout. Welcome!
Thanks for having me, Crystal. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay! Well, I would love to introduce you to the audience first. Miranda Sam is the founder of Shortlisted, an elevated clothing line for short women who are short on time. Something I can definitely get behind because I am a short woman. And also you've had various job titles over the years, like marketer, copywriter, even fashion journalist. So we'll dive a little bit into your career journey today and chat about how you've learned along the way and invested in yourself and progressed with your career. So again, so happy you're here. Thanks for showing up.
That sounds great. And I'll let you start asking questions.
Of course. I would actually love to just share a story first, which is that we met through a mutual connection who connected us over email. And then we went for a coffee chat, and over the years, I've seen you make these transitions, and you've always done it with a lot of gusto, I think, from an outsider perspective. And you've also been such a big supporter of mine because you've supported and encouraged me to pursue my interest in writing. So let's talk about how you developed this courage or this maybe adaptability to move from thing to thing. How did you first get into fashion, and what prompted you to start your own clothing line?
Well, courage, I'm not so sure. Adaptability, yes. That's one of the traits that I really pride myself in. So I had this dream as a kid, as a lot of people do, and most people kind of grow up and get practical about their careers. Mine was stuck in the back of my head for a long time, and it was one of those things where I always figured, okay, one day down the line, when I have enough capital, when I know enough people, when I, know how to sew kind of thing, right? I'm going to launch this line. What kind of line? I had no idea. I just really held on to that dream. Not sure if that was a smart thing to do because I didn't have the sewing experience, but like you said, I did move from one thing to the next and even spent a year in sewing school learning how to develop products and sew something from scratch, from concept to creation. Yeah, so I've always had that interest. And what was your follow-up question? What was that second part of the question?
For sure. So, okay, actually, super interesting because you just said you've had this dream ever since you were little, and then you got practical along the way. What did you actually study, and what was the practical thing that you did?
I actually wanted to go into to major in English, but my dad persuaded me against that. What are you going to do with an English degree? So I went into commerce and I studied marketing, and I actually really loved that. I felt really fish out of waters for every other major that you could possibly, specialize in university. But there was something really special about marketing, and the course that I loved the most was consumer behavior. And I could talk about that forever because what I liked about that is you're really diving into what other people are thinking, and you're kind of providing things for them without them to even have to tell you. You have to figure things out on your own, and it's just a lineage of marketing that you have to be super thoughtful about. And I feel that really resonated with how I see the world and how I do things for people. And so that's always kind of stuck with me after I took that course. But even while I was doing marketing, I took some sewing courses here and there, fashion illustration. It really never panned into anything because I don't think it was the right environment for me to learn. So it wasn't until a couple of years ago I learned one-on-one, and you're stuck somewhere that you can get the answer right away. Then that's when I really kind of like grew and blossomed into the product development space. Whereas with the rest of my career the jobs that I got from the marketing degree were all marketing and comm specific. So I kind of like needed to bridge the gap between the external communications part and the product development part. And that's something that I really wanted to merge. Like I didn't want to just be like a marketing heavy brand. Like I want to make sure that the product I put out in the world was good. And even though like I did launch earlier last year, spring of 2024, seems like a while ago, there's things that after looking at the product now, I'm like, oh, there's like this I could have done better and that I could have done better. So yeah, it's just like a whole learning process.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I learned a few things about you. Didn't know that you were considering English major, but that makes a lot of sense because you're so good at writing. And the commerce side, I imagine so much of running your own business is knowing how to market yourself, because unless you sell, like, you don't really have a business. So super valuable. I had followed your journey of, just kind of doing research even for Shortlisted. I was one of your first volunteers, I think. During the pandemic, you came over and measured me. Can you tell us about what is Shortlisted all about? Like, how did that connect with, like you said, like when you're a kid, you didn't really know what it would look like, but then eventually you landed on something. So how did you get there? And how did you start taking steps?
Yeah, it actually did not come naturally to me. Some people are like, oh yeah, I've had this problem my whole life, so I decide to, find a solution for the problem. But I think with like the time that, we were coming of age, what was in the media, what we saw, and there wasn't really like social media yet, so we couldn't really be, talking amongst one another. So all we got was what was shown on TV, and it was like a lot of like Victoria's Secret, and like that was just the norm of how women were idealized to look like. And so it was like tall, skinny, white, blonde, conventionally pretty, all those characteristics that are still really privileged for someone to have in this day and age. So I never questioned that. And it wasn't until like the pandemic hit that I kind of forced myself like, hey, this is now or never. Like, you have saved up enough now. You have enough work experience in marketing. So you either go for it or you don't. And I really had to sit myself down and force myself to think like, well, what am I trying to do? And it took like, I think I had did myself do this exercise where I had to write down like at least 10 different concepts and draw it out, right? So I had my first daughter at that time, so I started with like baby clothes. She started getting like, bigger by the day. I was like, oh my goodness, she's not going to be able to model for me. She's 5 years old now, and I just launched last year, so you can see how that didn't really work out. And I kind of transitioned to like mom and daughter matching clothes, but I just wasn't really interested in like the kids' clothes, and kids' clothes is mostly, stretchy jersey, like tights and sweatshirts and things like that. And I wasn't really interested in that. So finally I kind of figured like, hey, I always felt really like out of place while I was working in fashion, whether it was for a fashion house or in retail management or even like just trying to do wholesale stuff. Like I just didn't feel like I fit. And it took so long to realize like, okay, you can, if you're gonna make something from scratch, you can like make it fit you, which it just never crossed my mind, because there's just some things that just seems like you don't question, right? Like Victoria's Secret model is up there for a reason. So if you don't look like that, you're not ideal, right? Like you're not ideal proportions and measurements. And like, it was something my mom kind of hammered into me, like when I was growing up, like, oh, you're not tall enough. You're not like thin enough, that kind of thing. So I just kind of assumed that, oh, not good enough. So I can't like really do fashion, even though my heart was really in it. And I love playing with clothes, styling, right? Back then. So yeah, it was kind of like not a straightforward journey. And even though I had that dream, I had to really like question myself, like, is this what I really want to do? And then once I decided, I think that was like a big, hump that I had to come across. And then the next thing after that was like the launching of it and how I wanted to approach it. And I think it took a lot longer than most people. So like you said, I did measurements, I did like, real life research and stuff like that. Was it necessary? Like, maybe not. But in the process, I got to learn about, like women's body types and things that I had assumed, because I don't have wide hips. So when I measure people, I realized like there's actually a lot of women with like kind of pear-shaped body with wider hips. It's not my proportions, and I wouldn't like, starting out, I wouldn't just create for pear-shaped women, right? But now it's in the back of my mind, like, if this survives one day down the road, like that would be a great other category to have just kind of like the curvy or pear-shaped kind of category, because it's really, really hard to fit. Like it's just painful when I see women and they're like, oh yeah, I just accept the fact that I have to like do this or do that to make it work.
For me, it's buying capri pants and they fit me like regular pants, things like that.
Well, that could work to our advantage sometimes, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So you really went through a reflective period during the pandemic. Like you said, you sketched out different ideas and you said you happened to have enough savings. So was it always something that you squirreled away money with this goal, or is it, I'm just so curious, like with this podcast, we want to like dig into how do people do it? How did you save?
Yeah.
Like, how did you do it?
So maybe about like 10 years prior, maybe, I can't remember. So when I started to do freelance writing, all the money that I made from there, I would put towards like my business fund. So I wouldn't touch any of that. And it was very little, like you might know, getting paid to do writing, especially like the more fun stuff, like reviewing restaurants or like I had the privilege of going on a press trip one time, but I got paid $0 for that. Like I didn't even get the stipend amount, but the publication said, oh, because you can like write off things during the trip, then you get paid $0. I was like, what? Oh God. Like it was fun, but now that I have family and kids, like I would not be doing that, right?
Right.
It is kind of ridiculous. So
yeah,
I did that once. I'm like, okay, not doing this again.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you just put like in your mind anything that was extra, you put it away. So you along the way still had like a 9-to-5 job. You just did freelance on top.
Yeah, I did. And like there's just kind of like a couple of other things that happened along the way that I ended up with like a larger sum of money. So I just kind of put that towards the business fund as well. And during the pandemic, I was like, okay, I think this is enough. I have no idea. I have a friend in New York who started her own line. She says she started with like 50K. I hear people say that you need 100K. I did not have 100K, but I figured like, okay, this is enough to get me started, I guess. So yeah, that's when I decided I needed to go forward with it.
That's really empowering though, to have saved up for yourself, not relying on external funders to be able to start and pursue a dream. So I followed, you said actually something that was really interesting. You felt like maybe you didn't need to do all the measurements. You did a lot more research than others probably would do, but you were building a following and you're building that buzz, I feel like, along the way, just meeting people who believe in your brand. So I want to say, like, I definitely don't think it was a waste of time and energy.
Thank you, Crystal. And it was interesting because I had the experience of feeling like not tall enough, right, growing up. But I realized that not every person who's short is my clientele, just as like every person who's average height is not, an average height brand's clientele. So I thought that was very interesting because some people seem to go through life like, oh, I have no problems. I just can't, reach the top of the shelf. Or, like there's driving, the legs are too long kind of thing, right? Or like that's the space between your seat and the pedals. Your legs are not long enough. But yeah, some people just didn't seem to have any other issues. Like they didn't experience any bias or anything, which I was like, okay, that's interesting. But maybe that's not my target audience.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So customer research, right? Like you said, back to your marketing background. But you made a conscious decision to learn to sew. Can you share why you did that? Because that is a lot of work too.
It was a lot of work, and I think up until like maybe a couple of months ago, I still questioned whether that was necessary because, it's been quite a few years, like maybe 4 or 5 years since I had the idea, since my pandemic, and I've seen a lot of brands, launch. I've also seen a lot of brands launch and not keep going after a season or after a year. But for me, regardless of making this into a business, I always daydreamed about being able to sew clothes for myself. And specifically, it was like a 6-piece collection. I don't know why. Like, it just, sometimes ideas just stick in my mind, like, oh, I need to spend winter in New York, and then it happens. Some weird things like that. So I was like, I want to sew a 6-piece collection for myself. And so I thought that even if nothing pans out, like, that's something I can do for myself. And while I was doing school that year, like, it was super intense. Like, when I got to product development, I was doing like 1 garment per class, and I had maybe like 2 days after that, maybe like 1 to 2 days after the day of the class to finish sewing it. And sometimes I'm just like figuring things out because I just learned how to put in the zipper and I have to like figure it out. So it was a lot of work, and I didn't have time to practice. And so I felt like maybe I didn't really learn as much as I had hoped to because it was just like too fast, too soon. But recently, now that I had time to like digest and like after the launch and everything, and I'm kind of taking some more time for myself, I'm like, actually, like, I don't think it's as hard as I think. Like, it's still such a skill that I don't have. Like, I don't know how to fit things, like, right off the bat. Like, if someone wears something, I'm not going to be like, oh, yeah, because, like, you need to take in, like, that area, right? I can't, like, just figure it out by looking. But, like, I realize that I can put some time into it, and then I can create, like, the designs that I do want. And like you said, it is so empowering. And when I did the class, I had a industrial straight stitch machine, and then maybe at the end of the year I got like a serger, and then recently I got myself another new toy. It's this like hemming machine for knit fabrics. So how the hem of your t-shirt or the hem of your sleeve is done, it just finishes it really nicely, and it does a different job from the serger.
I see a big smile on your face.
Oh my God,
happy about it.
I'm excited to like test out this machine because I thought knits were like, sometimes I just want like pajamas that don't drag on the ground, or like t-shirts that aren't too low or like fit properly. And I've been trying to find like one of those longer sleeve t-shirts, and it's been impossible to find. So, girl math, instead of spending $50 on a t-shirt, I spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a sewing machine, plus I still have to buy fabric and thread and everything. So I say to myself, if I make myself 30 t-shirts, it'll like even out. But like, I feel like if you're going to do something, like, you have to have some sort of skin in the game. Otherwise it becomes another one of those businesses that launch digitally native and then they get flipped, they sell, they might be super successful, but the spirit is gone because the founder is no longer there, or the founder no longer cares. And I don't intend to do that. Like, honestly, even if this like never takes off, I would rather you can see my stuff there, right?
Yeah,
I'd rather be sewing at home.
For those listening, there's a rack of clothes behind us.
Yeah, I'd rather be doing that than just kind of like selling out.
Yeah, it's very heart-based. Like you said, it's a dream you've had since you're a little girl. Like, you want to do it right. It's not just meant to be sold. But another thing is, like, you've been so honest in all of your marketing about the cost of running a locally made, sustainable clothing line. Can you share a little bit? I mean, most of us are only exposed to fast fashion. Go to mall, online ordering, right? Like, so what is it like to try and run a business like yours?
It's not for the faint of heart, and it's honestly like really a dying industry in Vancouver and Canada, I'd say. Maybe not so much on the East Coast, but in the West Coast, yeah. Just like maybe 5 days ago, I discovered that another local factory was shutting down, and it was someone that I was hoping to approach somewhere down the line. But alas,
heartbreaking.
This generation doesn't want to take over their parents' businesses. So it's really hard. And a couple of months ago, I reached out to another local studio. They do like fantastic work, but the price to make a pair of pants. And this is like my pair of pants that I launched with. It is a little bit finicky because there's a lot of different parts. It's not just like, here's an elastic, okay, and
Right.
and you don't have to like do anything beyond setting in the elastic. Like there's loopholes, there's a fly front zipper, there's an elastic in the back, there's invisible pockets on the side seam. Like there's just so many little things that take extra work to do. So when the studio owner got back to me and said that it was pretty much $100 for a pair of pants, I was like, okay, this is not sustainable because you gotta mark things up at least like 3 times, right? So I'm not selling $300 pants. And then so I really had to go back to the drawing board and think like, okay, how can I do this? Like before I give up, like what changes can I make to at least experiment to see if it's going to work? So then I went to a market and I kind of learned a lot from there. And a lot of people were selling things that weren't like overly complicated. Like they didn't have to be oversized, shapeless clothes, but they weren't overly complicated and they were being really smart with their fabric. And because when you get things made in a factory or even like anyone else, like they'll help you lay things out one size at a time. So they basically print off a big piece of paper with all the pieces you need for size small, put it on the piece of fabric, and all the leftover parts, those are trash. So instead of like you taking those leftover parts and like, oh, I can make pockets out of these, right? That's garbage. So there's a big difference. Like you end up spending more on fabric and you have to like get those big sheets of paper called markers printed again. So it's like a really high cost. So unless you do a lot of volume, it's really doesn't make sense to do it that way. So I figured, okay, can I make things that are elastic in the back, but maybe without a zipper? Could I add some detail? Because I really love detail, like love texture, like just like little small enough detail, like gathers and stuff like that. So I'm like, can I, maybe design a skirt or a pair of pants that still has that semi-professional look, but without all these non-essential things? So, Crystal, so happy that you're one of my first customers.
It's so good, so comfortable. I always get compliments.
Well, thank you. But I'm not sure if like you ended up using like the bra strap holders. Like that was to me now a non-essential thing that I added in. Like it's great to have, but because we don't have like the machinery to do those kind of things, it ends up being like being made by hand, and it just takes way too long, and people don't even want to get paid to do that.
Yeah. When I got it, I didn't realize it was going to be there. I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah, see? It's not something people expect, but I'm like, oh, this is really cool. I want to try it out. I'm like, okay, you know what? Try it out. It's not great. So like things like that, I kind of learn like as you go along, you learn how much things cost and like why things are priced a certain way. So yeah, the $100 pair of pants, like I can't go through with that kind of manufacturing because I'm just going to end up losing money. So now I'm kind of designing in a way that like, okay, if I were just to have a couple of sizes, not like a whole 7-size run, and it's, easy enough to cut, could I sew this myself? So that's kind of like my plan now. Like maybe I'll just keep putting out styles and to see if people even respond. Like in my last newsletter, I put out a pair of shorts, like, hey, what do you think of these shorts? No one responded, so maybe I don't need to make them that complicated. Maybe I just need to make elastic shorts, elastic in the front and back. I don't know, right? So just to remove as many non-essentials as I can to kind of keep this going.
That's really, I think, reflective of who you are. Through this conversation, I'm really hearing like you are quite reflective and really like self-analytical, and you approach your own business that way too. And I think that's so needed to have a sustainable business. So I think you're made to do business, basically, whether it's for yourself or for someone else.
It does not feel like it. I just feel like I don't feel like a business person at all. I know I went to business school, and one of the top business schools in Canada too. But I think the way that I see myself is like I feel like I am a creative person. That's a word that I can really get behind. I'm a creative person, and I just have ideas, and I want to make those ideas into reality, whether it's for myself or someone else. And it's not the most like business, like businessy way to approach things. So
you're redefining what it can look like as a business owner. And so creative person running a business and given these financial realities for operating a fashion line, what do you see as your future? Like how you mentioned, like adapting, seeing if you can simplify things, but in the bigger picture of just your life and you need money to feed yourself and your family, like what do you see for yourself?
Well, right now, or like a couple of months ago, I got a full-time job again, and that was kind of always in the plan. Like I knew launching the business was going to require a lot of energy, and so I didn't want to be doing a 9 to 5 at that point. But after I did that, I guess I thought that it was going to be easier. My suppliers were going to be online, but seeing how the local manufacturing system, it's shrinking. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have like the manufacturing and supply chain set up. So, but either way, I made the decision to go back to work for a full-time job. And so right now it's not too intensive on the job side. It is a writing job, so something I can still do relatively easily. And I think it's a less risky way to go about your business. You see people, like I went from 9 to 5 to like focusing on this full time. So I think the trajectory, like what you expect is, you never go back to a full-time job. I kind of thought that, but the reality is like it's not working out. Like costs are way too high right now. Just way, way, way too high. So yeah, I think what I'm doing now is going to be a slow burn, like an even slower burn than I originally had planned for. So it's just going to be a matter of like focusing on my kids for the next couple of years until they're both in elementary school. The young one is still going to have like a couple of years left. And so make sure that they're okay. And then in the meantime, there's less stress for me to like perform right away. Like I don't have investors, I don't have a loan, I don't have like debt, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not like maxing out credit cards, so there isn't that stress. Oh my god, you need to be like selling this much. I do have to pay for things like email marketing and my website, things like that, but those are something that like even like worst comes to worst, like my paycheck can cover that, so I'm not so concerned anymore. Before I was just like watching my savings account drain, and that was not very fun.
Yeah.
So right now I think the plan is just to put out a lot of different styles, make it a faster iteration, and test it out at markets. So at like the lower cost markets. Last year I was kind of going for the higher end markets, and I wanted to fit the right clientele and things like that. But I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe I can try to simplify my designs and then simplify the time and cost and energy it takes for me to make a garment and just see what sells, because we are in Vancouver. People aren't like looking for the fanciest thing. People aren't wearing high heels or
it's not like that anyway. So Paris or wherever, I don't know, where people fancy.
So
yeah. Thank you for being so honest about your journey, because I'm a career coach and actually I work with a lot of people who are self-employed individuals looking to have a job.
Oh,
and
really?
That's okay.
Oh.
Yeah, or maybe they are looking for a part-time job to supplement what they do as a, whatever it is they do for their business. So I think we don't talk about it enough, and therefore there's sometimes shame that's attached to it. That like, oh, my professional brand is as this thing, but now I have to go get a job. No, you are taking care of yourself. And ultimately that is what's most important. And in some cases, people also might look for a job for non-money related reasons. Like they're kind of wanting more human connection because otherwise they're just in front of a computer all day. Or they want something that's more active and gets them outside the house, right? The rest of their work might be really sedentary. So I always say like everyone's situation is so unique. I think there's so much comparing that happens, but really if you just focus on what it is that you need, you really only have to answer to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm happy at this point, I have to say. Like it didn't really turn out as I'd hoped for the launch and everything, but I think this next couple years it's going to be interesting to really try to nail down why people like the brand, who the target audience is, and then go from there and just kind of like, use this as an experimental couple of years.
Yeah. And are you having fun?
Now I am. Oh my goodness. I'm going to show you my t-shirt when I make my first t-shirt. Something with a V-neck that's not too low. It shows your bra. I can't wait.
Actually, you should do a plug right now. How do people look at your stuff? Where should people go?
Oh, for sure. So I'm on Instagram, barely. You'll have to like click into my stories. So Instagram account is at Shortlisted Co. So Shortlisted CO. And the website is theshortlisted.co.
Okay. So check it out. You get to see behind the scenes of the product development, new things, and which markets Miranda will be at in the future. How do you think the little kid version of you would be feeling seeing you do this?
Interesting question. I think if I was like around, I believe I was like 7 years old when I got really into coloring Barbies and sketching dresses. I think I would think it's pretty cool. I'm like, oh, she has a professional setup at home. Yeah.
She can just like run off to her fancy toys and make things.
Yes, fancy toys.
Yeah, it's like graduating to the professional stuff. That's really cool. And you have 2 young girls now. What is it like for them to see their mom do it? Like, do they know what you're doing?
Kind of. The young one, no. She's not even like 2 yet. The older one, yes, for a while. She saw me when I was doing the year of school. She would kind of pull up to the domestic sewing machine and she'd be like, I want to work too. So it was really cute. And I've been bringing her, like, if there's no babysitting at home, I don't think it's a bad thing. Like, I bring her to like the markets or, run errands, like when I'm picking up markers, things like that. Like, I want her to see what it's like so it's not so foreign. Whether or not this registers, I don't really know. But she's getting older now, so hopefully she kind of gets it a bit more. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
she'll have these memories of like going to run these errands with her mom.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the reasons, like, when I originally started this was, like I said, I thought about this when I first had my first child, and I wanted her to grow up thinking like, oh, you can pursue your own dreams. Whether or not it works out, that's not the issue. Like, that's not the main thing, right? Like, you have the choice to go after things that you really want to do, the changes that you want to see in the world. And so I wanted them to have that around them. They're still so young, so hopefully I'm still doing this in a couple of years.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know if you noticed this, but in the last like hour or so, you actually mentioned in the beginning how your dad didn't really want you doing English, and then your mom also shared some messages around like height and body size and stuff. But what you just described and how you are speaking with your children is so different. You want them to be able to pursue what they want. So have you noticed that? I just want to point that out to you.
Well, thank you. I feel like this is a compliment being a good parent, and it's like the highest praise. I feel like it's not like, oh, you made $1 billion. Like, no, or whether or not you're a good person, whether or not you're a good parent. Thank you so much, Crystal.
We also want to like inspire folks on this podcast who are considering career changes, whatever it may look like, whether it's going back to school, learning something new, or changing jobs, and they might feel a little like nervous or stuck, not sure what to do next. What advice would you have for folks like that?
Well, I just want to share that, like, the year that I did school, I knew that when I was doing it, and even like before or after, like, it's a very privileged position to be in, to be able to like not work for a year and then, then spend money doing school. And it wasn't even like a school. It was like a kind of a training studio, right? So I couldn't even like write off taxes or things like that. So I would like to say like you should go for it, but like you just have to figure out what the parameters are, right? Whether or not you have to work another job or wake up earlier Like, it's so different for everyone else. But I feel like if there's something speaking to you inside that's like dying to come out, to be expressed some way, it's worth approaching it. Maybe not go all in like I did with like, oh my God, I'm gonna like go to school for a year kind of thing, right? But just to like do little things at once. So you were interested in writing, right? So like instead of saying, oh my God, I'm gonna publish a novel in like 2 years, just be like, okay, I'm just gonna like write a blog post every 3 weeks, right? Something that still matches and aligns to what it is that you need to express in a much smaller form and like much lower risk.
Yeah. Like, and you called it like finding your own parameters. I think that's what you said. That's really interesting. I also think when folks start taking those baby steps, they just feel good about themselves and that will motivate them to do more. And there's always learning along the way. And back to kind of that theme of investing in yourself, what do you feel has been your most valuable investment towards yourself?
Maybe it's that I took the steps to pursue this. Like financially, like the biggest investment would have been the year of school, because it was just so much, like, it was not just like the money thing, it was like time and energy and not really being as present with my daughter, because I was just like sewing the whole time, because it wasn't just class, you had homework, you had projects, you had so many things. It's not something I ever thought that I'd be doing, because, you know, I have a degree, university degree, and after that, you don't really want to go back to school, not for like 4 years. So I'm just really glad that I found a place that I could learn everything within a year. So it's actually like relatively fast considering all things. So yeah, that was like such a big investment. And I feel like, okay, this is like super random, but it always like felt like I wasn't quite there, because people would say, oh, why don't you just like make clothes for your kids? Or why don't you just like make this and that? I'm like, but I can't. Like, kids' clothes are all like stretchy. I don't know. Like, there was just like a big mental, like, internal block for me. But it wasn't until I just like picked up that last machine that I had, and that was the first time I really had to spend money on equipment, because for the industrial straight stitch, that was included in my tuition, which was actually a very good deal.
Oh, that's a good deal.
And so was like one of the domestic sewing machines. So that program covered all the equipment that I needed, except for the serger. So the serger I didn't pay for as well. My cousin who works in Seattle, I was like, oh, can I just like buy this on Amazon US and send it to you? He bought that for me, so I was like super lucky. But it wasn't until like me buying this last machine that does the hems and like sleeves and things like that I felt like, oh my God, I feel like my family is complete. The way that people feel like, oh, I had another kid, my family's complete. Like, I feel like my family's complete, and now I can really, really go full force and, you know, make t-shirts and tank tops and like, you know, t-shirt dresses for people, because like we're not just wearing wovens all the time. And so maybe that's something that kind of missed the mark on, because Vancouver likes to be really comfortable. And even like, look at me, I'm wearing like a knit long sleeve tee right now, and I'm not wearing my tank top because it's winter and tank tops for summer. But yeah, I feel like I have all the equipment necessary. So for the investment part, like, yeah, it was a school, but also like buying the equipment, kind of saying to myself like, oh my goodness, like, you have all the tools you need now to really like make it work. So try everything that you can to figure out the target market and everything while like building up on your skills. So I don't know. That last piece of equipment has just been like such a weird thing. Like, I wasn't planning to buy it, but one day I'm like, oh, wait, Googled things for honestly like just a day. Then I found it on Facebook Marketplace and I bought it on New Year's Day. So I'm like, okay.
Wow. It's just so interesting hearing you talk about this, and it's also done over time, right? It's not like you collected those family members like right away, but like you're really thoughtful and mindful about it, and it's the right timing. You took, you know, steps. You talked to people in your network, like your cousin helped you out with part of it. So like, don't be afraid to talk about what you're working on. Maybe Google or Facebook Marketplace or family members will be able to step in and support you in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this earlier about like just showing up on social. So now that I have all this stuff, if my plan is to really experiment, I need to be sharing that with people. And it is so hard because when you're in like maker mode, you do not want to be in marketing mode, even though I've been a marketer my whole life. But it's just so hard to do it for yourself, I find.
Oh, so interesting. Yeah. Okay, so any final thoughts? Maybe actually I would like to hear, given that you do have a 9 to 5 now and you're still working on these projects and you have family, like how do you recharge? How do you take care of yourself through this process?
Yeah. That's a good question for, I guess, a season of my life or like the things that I've learned so far. So back in the day when I was doing the freelance writing and the blogging and all those different things, I would just burn out all the time and it would just be like this never-ending cycle. And at the end of each cycle, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm never doing this again. My boyfriend at the time was like, now husband, it's like, you go through this like every single time. Like he's so unimpressed. I'm like, yeah, no, it will change. Like, so nothing actually changed. And even when I was doing school, like I'd stay up to 5 a.m. sewing projects because if I didn't finish it, I wouldn't get the feedback the next day, went on to the next one, or I'd just like waste a class. And each class was a couple of $100. Like it's not cheap. So yeah, it wasn't until like more recently, the last couple of months, and I would say really the last month, that I kind of put limits. So I feel like if I avoid doing sewing or like just anything related to Shortlisted for a long time, then I feel like, oh, I procrastinated, I'm feeling bad, and I gotta get back into it. But what happens is when I get back into it, like I try way too hard, then I would stay up to 2 a.m. Like when I was sewing those shorts, it's like, oh my goodness, I have to finish it tonight. So there's no reason to really. So I stayed up till like 2 a.m. But the next 2.5 days I had to spend recovering from that sleep deficit. And that just really wasn't worth it. So now I kind of try not to procrastinate, but I try not to like overdo it. So I say, okay, from when the kids go down till between 10 to 11, that's the time when you're doing something. You can't not do anything, but you can't go over it. So even if it's as simple as responding to emails or opening a package that has arrived or cleaning up my studio space, which is what I did yesterday, like you've got to be doing something so you keep the momentum going. I guess it's kind of like exercise. And when people told me, I just never listened. Like you can't just do nothing and you can't just lift 100 pounds at once. You got to work up to it and you just have to be doing something every single day. So I'm applying that same philosophy and logic to working on business on the side.
That's so important for most people to hear, I think. To really be gentle with yourself and recognizing that even opening a few emails and opening a package, that's work too. That's you contributing to the greater goal. And I think sometimes we might minimize smaller actions like that, the mundane stuff, but no, it counts too. So you don't have to always like work towards this, like showing off this new pair of shorts that you just made, like opening emails, that counts too.
It does. And I think before, and I had this like terrible way of like just downplaying everything I was doing. So I would just assume that, okay, emails just had to be done and it had to be done like basically in less time than it really is possible. So I would always get frustrated myself because I'm like, why is there so much stuff to do? But like the emails or even like documenting things takes up time. So like if we think about how if you go to a therapist, they take the last 10 minutes. They don't give you a whole hour. They take 10 minutes documenting things. Like that takes time, right? They're not going to do that outside of their 1 hour for you. So like I shouldn't think that emails should just be done in like a crazy fast speed. Like it still takes time. So now I'm giving myself more of that grace for like, okay, these things still count. Like even picking up that cover stitch machine, that counts. So that was the one thing I did that day. Rolling out fabric counts, just to like roll it out and check it. So everything counts now.
So great. I think this is what some folks call outcome goals versus process goals.
Okay.
So outcome is like you can show off a pair of pants, right?
Mm-hmm.
But process goals is more like you're dedicating efforts towards something consistently.
Yes, exactly. Yes, yes. That's what I'm going for. Just like the consistency of doing something.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much for joining and just sharing your journey, because you've really opened up for the audience to hear how you can jump from things to thing and still have that dream. And it's always going to be a part of who you are. I think it's been a part of you since you were that 7-year-old. And I think it's going to be part of you when you're 70.
I sure hope so. I hope I'd be making like couture level things at that point.
So yeah, like this is who you are. And whatever your job title is along the way or how you earn income, honestly, that's almost on the periphery. So thank you again. Really happy to have you. Hope you have a great rest of the day and week.
Thanks so much, Crystal. So it's always so lovely chatting with you, whether on a podcast or we just have our coffee chats, you know.
Yeah, always happy to even bring you on later, maybe see some of your new stuff. Thanks for listening to the After Work Hangout. If you enjoy honest conversations about career decisions and life choices, remember to subscribe to the After Work Hangout so you'll know when our next episode drops. And don't forget to leave a 5-star rating while you're at it. You can find a summary of this episode along with more information about our guests and resources that were mentioned at relocal.ca. That's RELOCAL.ca. If you take a look around the website, you'll also find blog posts, downloads, and community offerings to support your career development. I'm your host, Crystal Lee, and I'm always interested in hearing what topics you'd like to learn about. You can connect with me on Instagram at relocal.ca, or you can email me at crystal@relocal.ca. Finally, I want to say a big thank you to all the guests and supporters who make this podcast possible. This includes my podcast manager, Lindsay Curtis, and graphic designer, Alex Dewar, who created the podcast art. Thanks again for listening and sticking around. I hope you're more inspired and ready to make the moves that are right for you. See you at the next Hangout.